Hey everybody. Today I wanted to go through and show you guys how I have fixed my Johnson Desk kilowatt modulation transformer. I did my first video on that desk back a little over a year ago now, and I showed you how it worked in AM. It wasn't terribly long after that I did that video that there became an issue with the modulation transformer. What ended up happening is one of the taps for the modulator output of the transformer, the insulator that comes out of the body of the transformer had cracked. And so the little metal pin that goes through it was arcing to the case of the transformer. That's not something that you really want to joke around with. If it's happening, you need to immediately stop. You'll risk the transformer going out, and then you're in for a load of trouble. The transformers are not cheap. And either way, it's arcing to ground. You're going to cause way more damage trying just messing with it than if you actually stop and try to diagnose the issue. First, I had noticed I heard an arky sparky going on inside of the desk. So I stopped everything I was doing. I pulled open the desk. I keyed it up one time and I found out exactly where it was. Again, I could tell based off of the modulation transformer exactly where it was. It took me a little bit to figure out exactly what had happened. On these insulators for this transformer, they are very thin. They are very susceptible to cracking and breaking. And if they crack, they're going to short. There's so much current that you've got going on, and there's a high voltage inside of this desk. It's going to happen. What I did is I took the transformer apart. I removed the insulator, one of the good ones, and I had it sent off and had a technical drawing done of it. Then I found one company in the US that was willing to work with me and manufacture the insulators for me. They manufactured several of them, not a ton, but I got enough that if somebody else out there needs one to fix, these will work on the power transformer and on later models of the modulation transformer. These will also work on a Collins KW1 power transformer. The same power transformer that was used on the desk was used in the Collins KW1. So these are the same little insulators. But like I said, I wanted to go through a talk through. I figured it might help somebody else out because there is no information out there on how to do something like this. It is very little. Big portion of that is because this desk is, they're relatively few and far in between. And finding one of these insulators is just not going to happen. So what it is I took this little panel off. In order to do that, I heated up the transformer in my stove at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. What that did was it softened up the tar inside of the transformer. If you look, there's some black there. That is tar. It softened up the tar portion inside of the transformer so I could then separate this plate from the transformer. When you're doing that, you have to be super careful because the little metal rods that go through these insulators are very easily ripped off the actual wires that go to the taps on the transformer. So what it is, each one of these insulators, if you look at it, is keyed on the back. That key is for slipping those little rods through. And it makes sure that they're held put while a little nut is put on the front to make sure it stays in place. Also, if you look here, there is a little metal bracket here just under my fingers. And there's these little nuts. Each one has a nut and a spur nut, or a spur washer on it. That is pinching it. It's sandwiched in between this metal bracket. There is a very flat little ceramic piece in there, and that is to hold the insulators in place. Again, this is not a project for the faint of heart. If you have any doubts that you can do this, don't take it on. It is very risky. You can do more damage than good if you don't know what you're doing. If you break one of those wires off, the actual transformer winding, good luck getting it back on. It's just going to be super, super difficult. That's going to be a lot of work to do. What I did is I took a flathead screwdriver and a ball peen hammer, and I stuck it in between the laminations for this panel for the case of the transformer, and I was able to tap around it very slowly and be able to get this screwdriver wedged in all the way around, and I used it to pry away this portion of the transformer. There are 4 nuts, one on each corner of the transformer, with a threaded dowel, metal dowel, that hold it on. So you also have to take off all 4 of those nuts, which will be a little bit difficult because they are all painted. Because the transformer is painted, they are all painted over. So make sure you take your time. Don't get too hasty. And make sure you do it right the first time. Currently, I can't put it back together. I have somebody making me one of the little metal tap rods, making a couple of those so that I can replace them. That way, I never have to think about this ever again. So, we are putting this back together. I went ahead and put these insulators back on there. They thread through the little holes here, and they fit snug, nice and tight, just as the factory ones did. What I'll also show you here is, I think 5 of them. Yes, 5 of these are new, and you can tell which one is the original one because it's far darker. Okay, they all fit. They all fit correctly. Something that people tend to do is insulate these transformers, if there's an issue like this, from the chassis. That is not the correct way, and that is definitely not a safe way to make sure that this doesn't happen. So, if you need one of these little insulators, please let me know, because I have them. You can look me up on QRZ and send me an email if you need any. But far safer to go ahead and replace one, or find somebody who would be able to replace it for you. If you see here this little black ring that we have around it, that little ring is because of the arcing to this case that we had going on. So, like I said, it's gonna be better if you just do it right the first time. So, whenever I get this fully put back together, which should be within the next month here, I will have the modulation transformer completed, and I will install it back in the desk, and I will finally do the video that somebody had requested to do a CW tutorial on how to tune up the desk for CW and see it transmit it, the power output. Somebody had requested that, and unfortunately at the time that they had requested it, it was already too late. The modulation transformer had already had its failing. You know, I'm doing this video because I wanted to help somebody else out if they ever need that help. I've spoken before, I do these videos for this equipment because these are videos that I have looked for, or I would have wanted if and when I was looking for the equipment, or I was looking for an answer. You know, that 6 and 2 Thunderbolt amplifier that I have. Whenever I bought that amplifier, the band switch was broken on it. Somebody had fried the wafer switch. There's no way you're going to get that wafer. It's not going to happen. I like to keep these radios as original as possible. I don't want to do crazy modifications to them unless I absolutely have no other option. Or if it is to help protect the integrity of the equipment. One of the examples is on the Ranger or the Valiant or any of those that don't have a push to talk. It is better to go ahead and put some sort of push to talk relay circuit in there to help protect that switch. Those mode switches will go out. If you think about it, whenever you're turning those switches, you're turning high voltage with them. And doing that enough times, it's going to wear out that switch. And again, good luck getting that switch. It's just not going to happen. Whenever I did the 6 and 2 Thunderbolt, there's no way I was going to get that switch. I had spoken to quite a few people on different forums about different ideas that we could do to achieve the switching on that. I designed a voltage multiplier circuit, and somebody had suggested using the vacuum relay. That's the reason I have that circuit in there. While it is not original, I will never get original. It's just not going to happen. So, I made sure I did the best that I could with what I had. So, it works the way it should have originally. It has band switching. It is not only 6 meter or 2 meter. It has both. Again, not everybody can do that. Not everybody has that. So, I like to do it the best way that I know how. With what I had, that's what I could do. It works now without any issues. On the desk, this is another prime example. I had to have the insulator specially made. Yes, it cost a bit of money, but it is worth it to make sure that these will last for another 100 years. These radios aren't going to go away anytime soon. As long as you take care of this equipment, it's not going to go away anytime soon. These things were built to last. The desk, so far, after I have gotten everything done, this has been the only issue. Okay, I had that desk going for a little over 2 months whenever I ran into this issue. And the only reason that is because that was the first time that this thing had been used in over 20 years. So God knows how long, in how many hands, and how rough of shape it had been given, how rough it had been treated over those 20 years. The guy who owned it before me had never even seen it turn on. So, it was a miracle that I could even get it to go. So, again, you have this. If you have an issue with one of these insulators, it's not a joke. It's not something to just slap a Band-Aid on and hope that it's going to work. You got to do it right the first time. Otherwise, you're going to be regretting it and paying for it later on down the line. So, I hope this is a good and informative video for you guys. If anybody needs any sort of help with their desk, with something like this, or about how to do different things with it, please ask me. Send me an email. I want to make sure that these things are going for another 100 years. I'm probably one of the youngest people out there right now that is doing work on these vintage pieces of equipment. And I will continue to do it. But, again, if you get too hasty and you throw that out the window and you do a half job on it, you cobble it, they're not going to stay around that much longer. Just keep that in mind whenever you're doing any sort of work on any of these radios, any of these vintage pieces of equipment. Because you got to remember, once it's gone, it's gone. You're not going to be able to get that piece again, 9 times out of 10. Anyways, I will see you guys later, 73s. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Again, if you guys have any questions, please look me up on QRZ and send me an email. I am more than willing to help anybody out as best as I can. I want to make sure that, like I said, we have these things going for another 100 years. All right, 73.